Chapter 1. The invitation rain lashed endlessly against the window of the old bus, blurring the trees, hills, and broken fences outside. Emma Clark pressed her forehead to the cold glass. Her reflection in the dim light looked pale and uncertain. In her hands she clutched an envelope, yellowed with age and sealed with dark red wax. It was this letter that had brought her here. "You are invited to Greystone Mansion," the letter read in elegant handwriting. "This is the place where your past will be revealed and your future decided. Midnight, September 13th. Emma had thought many times about tearing it apart, dismissing it as some foolish prank. But there was something in the writing, the heaviness of the paper and the strange pull inside her chest that had compelled her to come. The bus jolted to a stop. "This is the last stop," the driver muttered, avoiding her eyes. No other passenger had taken this route tonight. Emma stepped off, the cold wind immediately cutting through her coat. Up on the hill stood a massive mansion. Its broken towers and pointed roof lines rose against the stormy sky, like jagged black teeth. Clutching the letter tightly, Emma began walking along the muddy path. Each step pressed heavily into the wet ground, echoing faintly. Somewhere in the distance, an owl hooted, then suddenly fell silent as though the entire forest had stopped breathing. At last, she reached the rusted gates of Greystone Mansion. Time had eaten away at the iron, and above, a carved crest, 2 ravens with spread wings, was barely visible. She pushed the gates and they screeched open with a tortured cry, as if disturbing some restless soul. Inside, the mansion stood decayed yet strangely defiant against time. Many windows were shattered, yet in one of the rooms faint candlelight flickered. Someone was waiting. Emma climbed the stone steps, her heartbeat quickening. She raised her hand to knock on the heavy oak door. But before her knuckles touched it, the door opened on its own. A tall butler stood there, dressed in black. His face was pale, his eyes sunken yet unnervingly sharp. "Miss Clark," he said. His voice seemed both real and echoing at once. "We have been expecting you." Emma froze. "How do you know my name?" she whispered. The butler smiled faintly, though the smile never reached his eyes. "The house remembers." He stepped aside, gesturing for her to enter. With a deep breath, Emma walked inside. The hall was vast. Dust and cobwebs clung to the chandelier, yet its candles burned steadily, casting a stubborn glow. Portraits of ancestors lined the walls, their painted eyes seeming to follow her every move. At the center stood a long table. Silver candelabras burned brightly, and polished plates and cutlery were neatly arranged as though prepared for a grand feast. But every chair was empty. Emma swallowed nervously. "Who else is coming?" The butler's smile widened slightly. "You shall see, Miss Clark. The guests will arrive soon. Until then, the house wishes to show you something." Emma opened her mouth to respond, but suddenly the candles flickered violently, as if struck by a cold wind. A whisper filled the hall, soft at first, then louder, like countless voices speaking in unison. Emma spun around. The portraits seemed to lean forward, their painted eyes glowing faintly. The whispers formed into words. "She has come. She must remember. The blood must be repaid." Emma's breath caught in her throat. The air grew icy and her vision blurred. She thought she saw shadows crawling across the floor, moving like living things. The butler's expression remained unchanged. "The house always remembers," he murmured. And then, behind Emma, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. Chapter 2. The New Guests. After the silence in the grand hall shattered, Emma's heart pounded wildly. She rushed toward the door, but the heavy wooden frame was sealed tight, as though chained with iron from within. She pulled, shoved, fought with all her strength, yet it did not budge an inch. "What is happening?" Emma whispered in a trembling voice. The butler answered calmly. "The mansion has accepted you. There is no return now." Emma's chest tightened. Before she could respond, footsteps echoed above on the balcony. The creak of shoes on the wooden floor grew louder, and slowly 3 figures descended the stairs. The first was a young man about 25, his face stern, his eyes hiding a strange, unsettled fear. Behind him came a middle-aged woman draped in black, clutching a small diary as if it were her lifeline. The third was an older man, his stride full of pride, yet his face betrayed exhaustion and the shadow of dread. The butler introduced them one by one. "This is Jonathan Hall. This is Margaret Wilson. And this, Mr. Edward Carter." Emma stared in astonishment. They looked just as bewildered, just as frightened as she was. Margaret's voice cut coldly through the air. "So you were summoned too. We all received a letter." "The same letter." Emma quickly pulled the folded paper from her purse. Indeed, all of them carried an identical letter. Ancient handwriting sealed with crimson wax, bearing the same ominous words. "Your past shall be revealed. Your future shall be decided." Edward Carter gave a bitter laugh. "This is some kind of game. Someone is trying to scare us into submission." But before his words could finish, the candles in the hall flared suddenly into blue flames. A violent gust swept through, extinguishing them all at once. The entire hall drowned in darkness. Emma's ears filled with whispers. Closer now, sharper, undeniable. The blood must be repaid. "Tonight, none shall escape." Jonathan's hands shook. Margaret's diary slipped from her grasp and fell to the floor. Its pages fluttered wildly on their own, as if invisible fingers were rifling through them. Then they stopped on a single page. Blood-like stains seeped across the parchment, forming words before their eyes. September 13th. The guests will arrive. A secret will be revealed, and one life will be claimed. Emma stumbled back in horror. The floor beneath her quivered, and from the staircase came the faint cries of a child. Muffled, choking sobs. The butler only smiled, as though none of this disturbed him. "This is only the beginning, Miss Clark. The mansion reveals its secrets in time." Emma's steps faltered. She looked at the three strangers, and in each pair of terrified eyes, the same unspoken question burned. Chapter 3. The Call of the Basement. The darkness in the hall grew heavier, and the air thickened with dread. The four guests huddled closer together, as if the shadows were waiting to devour them whole. The candles reignited with a faint blue glow, but their flames trembled weakly as though afraid. Emma's voice quivered as she whispered, "What is this? Why have we been brought here?" Margaret clutched her diary tightly against her chest. "This mansion is alive. I've read about it. The Greystone family was cursed. Are you insane?" Edward Carter snapped, his frustration spilling over. "This is all superstition. Someone is keeping us here and trying to frighten us." Jonathan, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke in a hushed tone. "When I stepped inside, I felt something whisper my name in my ear, but it wasn't a human voice." At those words, the floor beneath them gave a faint tremor. This time all of them felt it. From beneath the wooden boards rose the faint sound of a child sobbing, followed by muffled words. "Open the door. Let me out." Their faces drained of color. Edward blurted out, "Where is that coming from?" For the first time, the butler stepped forward. The echo of his shoes rang through the empty hall. "The voice comes from the cellar," he said calmly. "The mansion wants you to go there." "Why should we go?" Emma demanded sharply. The butler's eyes glowed faintly red. "Because the truth is buried there, and you are all part of that truth." Suddenly, a heavy carpet in the corner of the hall slid aside on its own. Beneath it, a large wooden trapdoor revealed itself. The iron rings clattered violently, then, with a bone-chilling groan, swung open. A staircase leading into darkness yawned below, from which cold draughts of air crept upward. Emma's heartbeat thundered in her chest. She glanced at the others. Jonathan's eyes flickered with both fear and a dangerous curiosity. Margaret's lips moved silently in prayer. Edward ground his teeth, his posture rigid, as though trying to cage his fear inside. "We can't go down there," Emma said, summoning all the courage she had left. The butler's smile twisted into something grotesque, almost a demonic grin. "You have no choice. Whoever enters this mansion must face its secrets." The child's voice rose again, closer this time, urgent. "Hurry! He's coming." Jonathan's trembling hand reached for a candle. He stepped toward the trapdoor. The other three, powerless against the pull of dread, followed him. The stairs creaked under their weight, so fragile it seemed they might collapse at any step. The deeper they descended, the colder the air became. Moisture dripped from the walls thick with mold, marked by strange scratches, as though someone had clawed them with bleeding nails. At the bottom, a wide, foul-smelling chamber stretched out. In its center stood an ancient wooden cradle bound in iron chains. The cradle swayed slowly, rocking itself without a hand to touch it. Emma's voice cracked in terror. Someone is here." And then, from within the cradle, a skeletal hand emerged, thin, blackened, trembling. All four of them screamed.